28,901,969 emails that was sent. We've sent a lot of emails over the past year for some of our accounts, right? A company that is, that has an email marketing platform program running typically makes about 30% to 20% of their revenue from email marketing. From this, we see 480,948 in revenue from email marketing. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the e-commerce growth map podcast with your host Frank Kenny, head of growth and CEO here at Line Media. And in today's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about email marketing. We often talk about paid media, which is like Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads. Although all those are very important, but a big piece that really just kind of drives and ties all of the paid media efforts together is email marketing. On average, you'll see a company that is, that has an email marketing platform program running typically makes about 30% to 20% of their revenue from email marketing, sometimes even higher depending on the industry, right? And so again, I think it's very critical to talk about it and how it all ties to paid media. And I'm gonna share my screen and then we're gonna go over specific numbers of different accounts that we work with, right? And we're gonna look at like different revenue numbers that we can make from some clients make from email marketing. We're gonna talk about just overall the whole structure from like welcome flows, from abandoned cart flows, from just like all these different things in which it's very important to email marketing, right? So guys, stick around to the end because this is gonna be an episode packed of just value and just information that's gonna overall just help you grow your DTC brand just to astronomical growth. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I have my screen open up over here. So we use Klaviyo and we use MailChimp for across like the agency for like our different clients that we serve, right? And so we're gonna be jumping around jumping around both platforms. So as you see over here, right? So this is just like a dashboard of like when you dive into MailChimp. Yeah. So this is MailChimp. So yeah, when you dive into MailChimp, this is like you're presented with this dashboard over here, right? And so like the main reason why I'm showing this is just so we can look at some numbers specifically, right? And then we're gonna dive into, then we're gonna go back and forth to Klaviyo. So you can see that over the past 366 days, we've sent 28 million emails, right? Let me give you the exact number: 28,901,969 emails that was sent, right? This is a lot of emails sent. So obviously sending this amount of emails, we get a lot of data, right? We see a host of different things that works, what doesn't work. And so obviously we just kind of reiterate and just make progress based upon that, right? So I think it's very important. This number is very important because we've sent a lot of emails over the past year for some of our accounts, right? And so when you look at this volume of emails sent, like the open rate is not going to be the highest. Open rate does differ per industry, right? Depending on what industry that you're in, there's an acceptable open rate, meaning like this is the average open rate for this specific industry. This is below average. This is above average, right? But for this specific account, so we're seeing about a 3.20 open rate. It's not the best, right? Meaning that, the open rate can be significantly better. And then when we look at the click-through rate is at a 0.15. So that's the click-through rate. And then when we look at the order rate, it's at 0.01. Now, obviously, out of 28 million emails being sent out, a 0.01 order rate is still pretty good because we've generated a lot of revenue from this specific account. And when you just look at the overall revenue from this, we see 480,948 in revenue from email marketing. Let me say that again. So that's $480,948 generated from email out of the 28,901,969 emails sent, right? So that just speaks volume. And so that's the data, right? And so first I want to talk about what email marketing is good for, right? Email marketing is good at converting new customer that have just been introduced to your brand is good at doing that. And we're going to dive into the specific flows that does that, which is typically the welcome flow, right? So email marketing is good at converting customer who have just been introduced to your brand, right? And email marketing is also good at essentially getting customers to come back and purchase your product again. If a customer has purchased a product one time, and the way to get them to come back and purchase another time is through email marketing, right? So this then deals with retention. How do you get customers to continuously come back and buy your product over and over and over again? This is through email marketing, which is also good for essentially increasing the overall lifetime value of your customers, right? Email marketing is good at engaging customer and just creating a community, right? Because with email marketing, it's personal, right? To a large extent, it's personal. Now, what's even more personal is SMS, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about a little bit about that towards the end of the episode. But email marketing is personal, right? So I see it as a very valuable piece of treasure. When you have somebody's giving you their email, right? It just kind of speaks volume and it means a lot, right? And so you want to essentially kind of nurture that, right? You want to be sending these people that are giving you their emails just valuable piece of information, valuable piece of content that obviously they found valuable, which then leads to them purchasing your product, right? And there's multiple ways to get a customer's email, right? The first and foremost, which is obviously on your website. When a customer goes to your website, you want to have some form of pop-up over there, right? A pop-up form which then asks for the potential customer's email, right? And what you want to do is give something in return for their email. And I will show you an example over here of what that looks like. But again, when somebody goes to your website, one of the first things that you want to do is give them something of value in return for the email. In case that if they don't purchase your product, then you can then communicate later with them through email, right? I hope that makes sense. And so there's a lot of different things that you can offer in return for a customer's email, and even just phone number too as well, right? You can offer them a discount, right? Like a 20% discount, 25% discount, 30% discount for a first-time customer purchase. This is very popular overall in e-commerce. So new customers tend to get a higher discount. So it's typically around 25 to 30% off for new customers, right? So this is like a new customer offer, right? 25 to 30% off of the first purchase. That is only applicable one time, right? And so that's one way you can do it. And depending on what type of industry and what type of product that you sell, you can even offer some form of like PDF, just some, or even tangible things, or even just some like samples to your product if that's applicable to the type of product and to the category that you're in, right? Now there's multiple other ways in which you can collect customers' email, but like the most popular one is to essentially offer a discount, right? Some people like to do quizzes, right? The quiz is like, you're like the customer will like essentially like answer like a series of questions, right? To try to find out some form of information. And then if they want to get the answer, then they have to provide their email. That's just another way of getting customers' email. There's multiple ways, but those are just some like the most popular one, right? Guys, so that's how you collect the email, right? Now, what's the first thing that you do when you've collected a customer's email? One of the first things that you want to do, you want to introduce the customer to your brand. And this is done with a welcome flow. I'm going to jump over here to Klaviyo and show you the different type of flows that we run across all our accounts, right? From like high-end flows to like, just like your average or your regular flows. So the most important flows that you want to have running is a welcome flow. So as you can see over here, so we're looking at a Klaviyo account. And so we can see a welcome flow over here, right? And we typically tend to like split test this, okay? So I'm gonna open up essentially like the structure of this welcome flow, okay? And then I'll show you essentially some of like the emails that is contained within that. So this is a welcome flow. So as soon as a customer gives you their email, wait about 15 minutes, and then you send them a welcome email. And so this is for one of the brands. there's different type of email structure that you can have. You can have, as the founder, you can have just like a personal message to the new customer, as we have done it over here. There's multiple ways to do this, but this is how we've done it for this specific brand. It's just a personalized message from the founder. Like if you want to kind of read what we have over here, like, hey, I'm the founder of Pip Wellness, and I'm so happy you're paying attention to your intimacy, right? This is an intimacy product, and then it just goes on and so forth, just introducing the brand to introducing the customer to the brand, and introducing like the founder as well. Those are very powerful email, and because I see a lot of companies, they just do just kind of more like a general like company type of email, but this one is getting more personal because like the founder is actually doing the introduction, right? So this is actually very powerful. So this is just one of the type of emails that you can send for a welcome, and then within that welcome email, you have what is like the code or the offer that you presented in the initial email, in the initial offer. So you want to make sure that you have that within the welcome flow, right? So some people are going to see that, they're going to be like, oh, nice. They're going to go ahead and purchase from that email. Some people are not going to purchase from that email. So what do you do with the people that have purchased and that has not purchased, right? Now, this is the logic in which we have for this specific flow. You can follow along with this logic and copy it, or you can kind of Klaviyo, or if you're using MailChimp, they have general welcome flow emails. It's very standard. It's very short. This one is the one that we have created is more like extended. But again, if you brand new to this, if you haven't done email marketing before, Klaviyo and MailChimp do give you some form of a template in which you can follow, right? So if a customer purchases from that, okay, cool. That ends them, that gets them out of this welcome flow. If they don't purchase, then we wait about another day, and then there's a second welcome email that we sent out, right? And so this is just to kind of show you the content of this one. This one is has a little more design, has images and things within that scope. So this is what that looks like, right? And we offer the product over here. And we also have like different like testimonials from what customers are saying, right? So that's the second email that we sent out. So if they do purchase from that, boom, we get them out of that. So like the whole goal of the welcome email, one, obviously is the introduction, but like the most important thing, like we want to get a purchase. We want to get the customer. We want to get a customer from that, meaning we want to get somebody to purchase from that emails, right? And the moment that they purchase from that email, we get them out of that sequence, right? So if they don't purchase, then we have another email. So this is going to be like the third email now after waiting 2 days. So this one is more of an informational. So with this one, we're using like a form of a blog for this specific email. So that's the third email that's going to go out. And if they purchase from that, boom, we get them out of the sequence. If they don't purchase from that, then that's a fourth email that is sent out. Same thing over here. And then if they still don't purchase, then there's another email that is sent out, right? So there's a total of like 7 email that is sent out, right? Now, this is a long sequence over like a couple of days to like just kind of make sure that we're really just introducing ourselves to the customer and providing value along the process. Your average template is probably going to be around like 3 to 4 emails, but like we took the time to kind of like really design this and make sure that we have like multiple emails that are sent based upon what the action of what the customer is doing, right? So that's the welcome flow. So this goes out after the customer or potential customer has given you their email, right? So what's the next type of flow that you want to have? If a customer attempts to buy a product from your website, so they go to your website, they add the product to cart, but for some reason they don't check out, they don't purchase the product. So the next that you want to have is abandoned cart flow. So the abandoned cart flow is essentially, as the name says, it's supposed to re-engage the customer that has added the product to cart. So to show you what that looks like, we have a new abandoned cart flow over here. So let me click on that. Let's look at the logic behind that. So the trigger for this is when someone's added the product to cart and they don't purchase. So we then have, we wait about 30 minutes, and then that's an email that goes out to them. Essentially just reminding them like, hey, you left something in your cart, and it's typically, we send them the exact same product that they've left in their cart. So you just kind of make it easier for them to go and proceed with the checkout. And sometimes we'll want to add a form of a discount just to kind of help them with the checkout process, right? Because there's multiple reasons why a customer would not complete their purchase. Maybe they got distracted, and so sending this email like 30 minutes or to an hour after, it just comes as a reminder, right? And so that's one that goes out. If they still don't purchase from that first email, that's another one that we sent out, right? And so you can see what that is over here. It's now with this one, it's kind of now we're trying to essentially kind of we're trying to indoctrinate them to some extent. And so we just tend to provide more value with that one. So with this one, we're doing like a comparison between our brand and other competitors, as you can see over here. Like, what's the difference, right? And then if they still don't purchase from that, we do have a third abandoned flow that goes out. And again, we want to get that customer to come back and to purchase. And so this is what that looks like. This one is more of a personalized email from the founder, right? So it's just text, no image, no design or anything like that. And so if they still don't purchase from that, we have another one that goes out. So we have about like 2 more emails that goes out for the abandoned cart, right? Guys, again, when we do this, we're not trying to like bombard the potential customers with like just like emails. So like we wait specific times and then we send a new email. We wait specific time and then we send a new email. The emails are not all the same. They're spread out. In addition to that, it's always something different, trying to essentially obviously, tell the customer why we're different from other brand. Right, so that's an abandoned cart email that we have set up. So the next thing that we're gonna do that we can see as well. So it's like when a customer essentially purchases the product, right? Like what happens? It's like it's not the end of the journey, right? That like it's not the end. Now that they purchase a customer, one of the things we want to do, that's a thank you email that we do send out. And so as we look at new thank you flow, we're going to look at the logic behind that. So that's an email that we sent them, just like, hey, thank you for purchasing our product, right? So let me show you what that looks like. As soon as a customer purchases the product, we wait about 2 hours, and then that's a thank you email that goes out. I'll show you what that looks like for the specific brand, and it's just text. It's just a thank you note from the founder, right? That's really personal again because it's from the founder. Really just say like, hey, thank you for purchasing our product, right? So that's literally what it is. And then let's see what this other one is. Cool. So there's actually 2 emails that goes out, right? So if they purchase one time, boom, we send that to them. But if they purchase 2 times, then that's a separate type of email that we sent out, and that's what we were looking at over here. It's the same thing. It's just a note from the founder, like, hey, just thank you so much for being a consistent customer. Right? And so there's another third email that we sent out. Now this one is to get them to come back and purchase again, right? And so, because if they already purchased the first time or the second time, we want to get them to come back and purchase the product again. So there's different things that we do. We either introduce them to a different product that can either complement the product that they already purchased, or if you're a brand that just that only sells one product, you can offer them some form of a discount for like a bundle, right? For purchasing like multiple products. Right, so the different type of ways that you can do this, but with us, what we're trying to do in this specific one is essentially trying to introduce them to new products, right? And then that's one of the emails that goes out, and then we have another one. Again, just trying to be more engaged with the customer, right? Trying to get them to purchase the product again. So we have a total of 5 emails that goes out for this thank you. Sometimes we even give them like store credit just to come back and purchase like more products or the same product if they choose, right? So that's the thank you email. That's the thank you email that goes out after a customer has purchased the product, right? So there's another email that is called a win back flow or a win back email, however you want to call it. So the purpose of this email is essentially to engage customers who haven't purchased the product for an extended period of time, right? That could be 90 days, that could be 120 days, that can be 160 days, however you kind of choose to see this. So, and kind of things to consider when you're putting together like your win back email, you have to look at like what the product is and what is like the average use of your product, meaning typically how often do people run out of your product, right? And so you kind of have to look at that and then gauge, okay, cool. If a customer purchased this product this one time and they have already ran out maybe like 2 months ago, right? And they still haven't purchased a new one after like 30 or 60 days, then maybe it's time to get them to come back and re-engage. And so that's essentially what a win-back email is for. It's to look at those customers that have purchased 1 or 2 times, but then they haven't purchased in a long time. So we want to get them to re-engage and come back and purchase again, right? And so this is what that email flow is. It's like, as you can see this, like kind of what the messaging behind this is like, hey, we miss you. Here's a code to essentially come and check out and come and purchase like a product, one of the products or one of our product, right? So that's essentially what that means. Like, we miss you. Come back and purchase product again. And so there's a series of emails that goes out to essentially with the purpose of trying to get that customer to re-engage. In this specific one, we have 3. 3 emails. And after those emails, if they still don't engage or come back and purchase, there's a few things that you can do. You can essentially kind of archive those contacts and make sure that it doesn't mess up essentially with your email deliverability and you operate on all those things, because if you're sending emails to customers and they don't even engage with your email, it tends to mess up like your email reputation to some extent. So we want to make sure that we segment those type of customers that are not engaging with our emails after specific attempts to try to get them to come back and re-engage and to purchase product. Okay, so that's that, guys. So we've already walked you through. So we walked you guys through the welcome flow, the abandoned cart flow, a thank you flow, and in addition to that, a win back flow. So there's another flow that we tend to have. It's when a customer essentially is looking at a product. They don't add the product to cart, but they look at a product, they view a product, but then for some reason they choose to not purchase. Let's see. This one, so the trigger for this one is when someone is active on site, right? So we do send out an email, hey, curious about release and what the product is. So it could be the same thing as if somebody's looking at a product, right? So the same email can go out. So either active on site or they're looking at a product. And so we do send them this email like, hey, are you curious about a product? So just essentially giving them more information about our product, right? So this is the next email then another sequence that you can have for your overall email. So in this specific one, we just have 2, right? Obviously, the goal is to get them to purchase the product, right? So guys, so we've walked you guys through a total of I believe it's now 5 email sequence that we have set up. So that's a welcome flow, that's an abandoned cart flow. There is when someone is active on the website or when somebody adds a product or is looking at a product, that's the third. And then we have a thank you, and then we also have a win back email sequence, right? And so those are the main, your meat and potato when it comes to email marketing. And depending on how large how much traffic you get on the website, how large your email is, you can generate a lot of revenue from email, as I've just shown you guys from the MailChimp account, right? And so this is this is the beginning structure of the flows, right? This is all automated. Right, it's you don't have to be, you don't have to be going in and making edits and stuff like that. Although about once or twice every about I'll say 6 months or every 2 quarters, we do come back in here and make some updates. Right, maybe if there's an update in the product or something like that, we do tend to update the flows. Right, so it is important to keep a close eye on it just for any updates. Or sometimes what you've seen for some of the emails over here, we do split tests. Right, if we see that after a while, some of these flows are not converting, okay, let's put together a new design and then let's split test that against the existing one, So that's also another thing that you can do. If you see that your flows are not working, you can always split test those as well, right? Guys, so we talked about the flows. Those are all based upon triggers and things that the actions that people take on your website. Whether that's an abandoned cart, whether that they're looking at a product, right? Whether people that have already customers, right? So we talked about all the different automations and the flows that you can set up for those to make sure that you're essentially just kind of generating revenue automatically. So you have the flows. So what now? Outside of flows, there's also campaigns that we can send out, right? And in this specific account, we send about, again, depending on how large your email list is, you can send out campaigns every single day, but the segmentation is very important, right? So you don't always want to be sending emails to your whole entire list, because that's a quick way for people to hit you as spam, to mark you as spam, and then that just affects your overall reputation of the email. And once that is affected, it tends to affect what emails are being, it tends to affect overall your emails that are being sent out. It doesn't always land in the customer's inbox, right? So you got to be careful with that in terms of segmentation. And so one of the things that we do is we make sure that the emails that we do send out are segmented. So we don't, again, always send list segment. We don't always send emails to everybody. Only on specific holidays, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, or when you're running a massive sales, there's specific times in which you can send emails a blast. There's only specific periods of time when you can do that. When it's typically a big event, which people already know about, right? So what we have over here, so this is this email size is kind of small because this is a newer account or newer brand, should I say. So we have a 90-day engage, right? So out of all the emails that we've sent out over the past, say for example, year, we look at a 90-day time frame and see the people that have engaged, and then we segment those. And then we also have a 60-day engage, right? And you can even do a 30-day engage, right? So when you do that, you're making sure that the emails that you're sending out are to people that are constantly engaging with your email. So meaning like they're opening your email, they may be clicking on the call to action in your email, they're going to your website. So they're engaged, so they're okay and they're happy with receiving emails. So you can continue to communicate with them, right? Now, if there's people that are not engaged outside of this time frame, then you don't want to send them as frequent of emails because maybe they're not that receptive to your email. So you don't want to send them emails repetitively, kind of what you would be doing with those people that are engaged, right? So those just be mindful of those segmentation, guys. So the emails that we do send out are people who are engaged within a specific time frame, right? Now, so this is just in terms of like segmentation. So sometimes what you can do when you send out an email to when you send out like an email campaign, and then maybe for like 50% of the people open the email, and another 50% don't even open the email. So what you can do, you can actually create another segment of people who didn't engage with just that specific email campaign, and then craft another email campaign that you can send them. Typically, what you can do, you can send them the same email, or you can just change the subject line of the email to be something a little bit more, aggressive or something just different that may get their attention, right? And then sometimes that helps them lead to open the email. Those are just like the different type of things that you can do when you're sending out an email campaign and people are not always opening. So you can resend it to just the people that didn't open, just change the subject line, right? Or that's one of the strategies that we often run a lot here at our agency for email campaigns. Again, outside of the flow, so we do send out emails. Again, you kind of have to see what would be acceptable or appropriate for your customers and for your brand and for your contacts. So you can send out 3 emails a week. You can send out 5 emails a week. You can send out literal emails every single day. Again, just depending on how large your email size is, right? So that's just kind of very important for something to keep in mind, right? So with this one, for this account, we send out emails about 3 to 4 times a week, right? And then I'm going to switch over here to another account, right? So this is the account that we first looked at the beginning. With this one, we send out email every single day because the email list is massive, right? It's big. We have about like 280 to 200 to 300,000 emails, right? So almost with every email that we sent out, we generate like north of like 200, 300, 500, sometimes even 1,000, 2,000 in overall revenue because like the size of the email is just so large, right? So you can kind of see like the data from this, except just like recently. So like one of the most recent emails we sent out was this one, $89. We just sent this out yesterday, right? So it's something that you have to keep in mind. It does take time for people obviously to open the email. And so sometimes you send an email today, like your customer probably won't purchase from it from like 3 or 4 days later. So that's also something that you have to keep in mind. So you can see over here like the different type of, let me see, make sure that this is just looking at emails. And then, this is just looking at emails. Okay, cool. So we can see like the revenues generated from this email, $200, $1,000 here and then. And obviously, again, like it all adds up. This one was like, $4,000 in revenue generated from that one. So you can see that like it all adds up, right? Now, that's email marketing, guys, and you can see like the importance of that. Like, so what's the next after email? SMS. SMS is very sensitive, but depending on how large your SMS list is, it can be even better than email, right? Because when you think about email, not everybody opens the email every single day, but with SMS, everybody looks at their phone and their messages every single day, right? So that tends to be more receptive and more engaging for people, right? So the thing about SMS again is it's sensitive because it can be harder for you to receive SMS from your potential customers, right? Because that's a very sensitive piece of information you just give out to a brand. And so with that, how you typically can try to capture an SMS is once you've essentially like you've captured the customer's email within that pop-up on your website, you can give them like an additional piece of value just to receive like the SMS too as well, right? So if you're doing a 25% off for email, you can add an additional 10% off, so which would then equate to a 35% off overall by just asking them for like the SMS as well. So 25% for email, and then maybe like another 10% for SMS, right? You kind of have to mess around like with the offers, but SMS is also very important because when we do send campaigns, I mean, it tends to generate revenue almost immediately because people will see the offer that we're running and then they want to take action on that right away. As opposed to email, it can take a couple of days for people to even see that and then just tend to choose to take the call to action from that, right? So guys, I will set another episode to talk more in granular details about SMS, but probably not in this episode, right? But I just kind of wanted to say SMS is also important. It's just as important as email marketing, right? Guys, I hope this has been helpful in terms of like email marketing. It's just like an important piece to just like your overall marketing. Because when you think about marketing, you think about Meta, Google, TikTok, and even if you're advertising on Snapchat or any other platforms, right? Costs on those platforms are always rising, meaning like the cost per acquisition is always higher than CPM are always rising on those platforms. They never come down. They're always rising, right? And so it's just so important as you're advertising on this platform to make sure that you're capturing emails, because that is arguably your most valuable piece of asset. Because if all these platforms were to go down one day for whatever reason, you can't advertise anymore, right? You still have your customers' emails in which you can send them emails to try to generate revenue from that, right? And it doesn't cost. The only cost that you have to pay is obviously the cost of the platform that you're using to house all the emails, such as like MailChimp or Klaviyo. And just depending on how large your email size is, it can cost you, a couple more $1,000, again, just depending on how large that is. But still, it's just so worth it. As a brand, your customer's email and phone number are probably one of your most valuable piece of assets, because you can communicate to them any single time, and you really do have a close relationship with those people to a large extent, depending on how you're communicating with them, right? So email marketing is very important. And again, depending on what type of industry that you're in, it tends to make about 20 to 25 or 30% of a company's email, sometimes even more, right? So it is very important. And if that's not already part of your overall strategy for DTC, I would highly recommend you to start working on that and start building your email list, right? And this is not the last time we're going to talk about this. There's going to be more podcasts in which we talk about this. We're going to bring on additional guests just to kind of share their, kind of the different strategies that they're running with email marketing, guys. Guys, this is going to be it for this podcast episode. Thank you again for tuning in. If you guys have any question, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, on YouTube, drop them down in the comments. And if you're watching this on any of like the Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can go on our website at lionmediaad.com, fill out a contact us form if you're interested to partner with us so we can work on these strategies for you. Again, just go to lionmediaad.com and fill out a contact us form, and then we will be in touch with you guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode of the E-commerce Growth Map podcast. Again, with your host, Frank Kinney, head of growth here at Lion Media. See you.